What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Big Five Pod, episode number 109. Wow. I am, of course, your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me, co-host Jake Copestick, fixing his lighting, making himself look real good, as he should. Cope, how we doing?
Good, Kyle. Football's over. Congrats to the
Yes.
Eagles. Belt to
Congrats
ass
to the
over the
Eagles.
Chiefs. As a Broncos fan, I will never feel bad for the Chiefs losing, especially in that fashion. Poor them. Yeah, they can cry about it if they want. I don't give too much of a shit. It was pretty satisfying to see them get their ass beat like that. Because Bo Nick should have beaten them twice. He beat the B team, and he should have beat the first team in Kansas City, and they got bailed out as they did every year or every game this season with the block field goal. So congrats to the Eagles. Headed to the parade tomorrow. Work Temple is shut down. We're closed. So yeah, I'm headed to the parade. I have a bunch of obviously all our friends are Eagles. I think, but we're the only two people in our friend group that aren't Eagles fans.
I think there's a couple more, I think.
Maybe there's a couple
There's a couple
others, but
Steelers fans, a couple Giants fans.
primarily it's like it's us.
I would say it's probably 85% Eagles fans, though.
Yeah.
It's a big friend group. Big friend group
Yeah.
for sure.
So me
Um,
and you are kind of like the outcasts here, but I'm
yeah,
going to go to the parade tomorrow. I went to the last one when we were in high school. It's just it's in Philly, it's a spectacle.
it's a fun time.
It's it's
Listen,
a spectacle.
yeah, we went in 2018, which was awesome. I'm not
Really?
going this time. I can't really get off work for this, unfortunately. But also, like, I'm in the city, so I'll be around. I'll see it. I'll hear it probably. Although I'm a little further away. But listen, if you're going, one, be safe, of course, but two, have fun. It's going to be a phenomenal time. Like I said, when we went back in 2018, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I'm gonna have a little bit of FOMO. I mean, I'm not gonna miss the million people standing next to me, up and down Broad Street and the Boulevard and every which way by the Art Museum. But it's a great time. I hope I can experience that one day for my own team. I've not yet do that. And I'm not even just talking about the Jets. I don't have hope at all. I mean, I like Aaron Glenn, but for any of my teams, I've never experienced it. So we'll see. We'll see. At least you've experienced it with the Broncos. I know you weren't at the parade, but
Yeah, it's it's a great feeling, and I don't say that to belittle any of your teams
no,
because
I'm
the
sure.
Knicks the Knicks are the Knicks can make a run at it for you, but yeah, it's a yeah I feel like I kind of have to be there tomorrow. It's a spectacle. It's a Friday.
Yeah,
It's 11 to 2, the speeches start, and then like afterwards, you just get released into the city after. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. So,
yeah,
yeah,
crazy
very
day.
much looking forward to that. But now we can look forward to college hoops. Um, I mean, tournament hopes really start to heat up here. I got to interview Mike DeCourcy, who's the Fox bracketologist essentially for Big Ten and the Big Ten Network guy. Um, and I got to interview him 2 years ago, and he said when you hit Valentine's Day, that's when the bubble really starts to. That's when losses are crushing and the wins are like ecstasy in terms of putting you kind of over the top here and getting you in the field. So that starts tomorrow now, Kyle.
Yeah,
And the
the
time
day
this
this comes
episode
out.
comes out, the bubble is. I mean, you are living and dying. Not that you haven't been really for pretty much since conference play, but really every game is almost life and death now. So we're coming down to it. We got about 2.5 weeks. Well, 2 week. We're at a leap year, so it's two
Yeah,
weeks until
two
March. It's
weeks.
crazy, crazy how the season's
This
flying
is
by.
not a leap year. Last year was a leap year.
Was it?
It's an odd number year this year,
Sorry, I'm
2025.
not. I'm not tuned in.
It's okay.
Apologies,
It's
but
okay.
um, I am tuned into college hoops, and now that we don't have the not that football is a distraction because we love football, but
But we're
college
football fans, so
basketball,
yeah.
yeah, 100%. But college basketball is the main event now.
Yes.
College basketball takes center stage. And I saw Trilly Donovan put out a video montage right after the Super Bowl. For all you football fans that have not been tuned into college basketball, you are about to find out what you've been missing out.
And this year in particular has been a crazy one. So listen, I'm so excited. I don't even know what to say. So, Cope, why don't we get right into it? If we have time at the end, we can talk a little bit national big picture stuff. But for right now, we're going to turn our focus back to the Big Five because there were some some good results, some bad results, some things in between this past week or so. We have a lot to go over. We were at a couple games this week. You a couple last week as well too. So why don't we start off? We're not going to call it winners and losers anymore. We're going to call it who's hot, who's not in the Big Five. Cope, who's hot in the Big Five? As I
So
knock
I'm
over my
gonna
Thin
give
Mints.
three winners here. I'm gonna go two individual players, and then I'm gonna have a wild card here because I've gone with some teams as of late. And you want to talk about a guy who's hot right now? How about Tyler Perkins
Oh yeah.
individually? Big shot to eventually give Villanova that win over St. John's yesterday. I'll let you expand on the game because you were there. We split time yesterday. You were at Villanova. I was at LaSalle St. Joe's. So want to mention Tyler Perkins though. As he goes, essentially, it seems like Villanova goes undefeated when he scores in double digits. He is so integral to this team that you look at the bench, Chris Parker, not sure if he's dealing with an injury. He's had some games where he didn't play. He's had some games where he seldom played. You look at that Creighton game and he misses two 3-pointers. He had one that I think went off the side of the backboard in that game, and then he really didn't play in the second half. And it was Jordan Dumont who was getting those minutes. So unclear what is going on with Chris Parker. But the point being, Tyler Perkins, he's the spark plug off the bench for Villanova. He's the scorer. He provides pretty much all the scoring off the bench for Villanova. And if they can get a scoring lift from him, it's massive for them. It is. And you look at last night, he has the big shot to win him the game. And he had a season high 20 points, a Villanova season high for him, 20 points in the Xavier game that I was at on Super Bowl Sunday. And Sean Miller was even saying in the presser, like, they're a different team when he gets going. That's the bottom line here. Josiah Mosley's a nice player. Defensively, he's great, but he's not the scoring engine or the shooter and the creator that Tyler Perkins is. So when you get a scoring lift like that outside of their big four, if you will, for Villanova, it totally flips the game on its head when you have an offensive output like he's been putting up 7-0 when he scores in double figures.
Very
And
good.
it's not a coincidence. They need that scoring off the bench, but 20 points against Xavier, 7-9, 4-5 from three. He was 4-5 from the 3-point line last night against St. John's as well. So, two big performances by him. I asked him in the press conference when after the Providence game. I asked Kyle Neptune about Perkins, who, although he didn't score too much in that game, made some big plays late. Had a steal underneath the basket with a couple seconds left. Just made some big plays that don't show up in the box score. And Kyle Neptune said, "I call him the battery for all the energy that he brings off the bench and all the energy he brings every day." And he certainly lived up to that Sunday, but yesterday as well. It was a massive shot that he hit to get Villanova at least back in consideration for an at-large, at least put them in the position in the conversation. They're not there yet. They still need to rack up another big win. They're going to have opportunities, but that was a massive win for them. And Tyler Perkins, he is the battery for this team. He is the energy off the bench, and 7-0 when he scores double digits. That's what the bottom line is. When he can be that fifth scorer, fourth scorer for you, it's absolutely huge. So great week from Tyler Perkins. He is certainly hot. And we saw him go 0 for 25. He had an 0 for 25 stretch from three. I mean, he had a stretch where he was not scoring, and they were still able to win some games, but he's integral to this team. And you want to talk about a guy that's hot? He certainly is. Another guy I want to touch on, Kyle, was at St. Joe's last night. Erik Reynolds II. He's been struggling this year. His percentages aren't quite there. He's sub 30% from the 3-point line on the year. We're not seeing the percentages and the numbers that we're accustomed to seeing from him. Who's to say why that is? But the last handful of games, he started to pick it up. You look at I was at the game Friday against St. Louis, and 25 in that game, a game high, a team high in that game. And then last night, Rasheer Fleming is in really bad foul trouble. He picks up 2 fouls in not even the first 5 minutes. And LaSalle was winning a good chunk of this game with Rasheer Fleming having to be subbed in and out quite frequently in the second half, having to sit for a good chunk of the first. He only played not even 11 minutes in this game. And Erik Reynolds, brings that like he brought them back and it was huge shots by him late. He had an and one. He had a three. Xavier Brown then hit a three and all of a sudden a 1 point lead's now a 10 point lead thanks to the big shots that those two were hitting. But specifically Mr. Reynolds in general, who also Kyle hit the 2,000 point mark. He's the first Big Five player to do that since Scotty Reynolds, and he's now just about 80 points away from passing Jameer Nelson and being St. Joe's all-time leading scorer. So a tip of the hat to him, not only for that accomplishment, but how about for staying at St. Joe's all 4 years? I'm sure he had people in his DMs enticing him to go elsewhere, but we interviewed Justin Scott in the summer, and he said, you know what's crazy? That guy never had an inkling or a thought that he was going to leave. He was always going to be here. He stuck it out through some hard years, but what a scorer, what a player, a massive accomplishment. And you don't see too many guys like that in college basketball. Billy Lang in the presser said yesterday, he's what college basketball is all about. Seeing a guy grow, seeing him progress, seeing him, undergo a metamorphosis to become the player he is now and develop like he did in 4 years. You don't see that very much anymore, but congrats to him. St. Joe's wins back-to-back games. Of course, he is a big reason. And, he's going to be etched in history books for every pass Langston Galloway last night. Pretty
Good
good.
deal.
Pretty good. My third winner, Kyle, I'll let you expand on it a little more because you had boots on the ground. My winner's Bananas. My winner's
Bananas.
Bananas.
Yes.
The Bananas showed up at the Finn, and they got a big win yesterday. So shout out Bananas. I don't know what else those guys got planned, or maybe more people will show up in Bananas. But yeah, I guess that's the vibe that Villanova needed. All I know is that they're 1-0 with Bananas in the crowd this year, and they happen to knock off Rick Pitino in a top 10 team. So big winner, Bananas. Also a great thing to eat for breakfast in the morning, too.
Great thing. A lot of potassium, pretty healthy. Yeah, the bananas were awesome. I don't know the exact purpose of the bananas and who organized the bananas, why they were dressed up as bananas, but they made a difference, Cope. They got out there and made a difference. They mattered. That place was going to be loud already. Top 10 team coming into the Finn. First game of the Finn in a little bit, too. They had at least two straight Wells Fargo games. Um, but the bananas got the place going. Their energy was relentless. I think they had to move to the other side of the arena at least once. I know that John Fanto was talking to them on the broadcast, not talking to them, but talking like at them as they were going by. I think Tommy Godin, our friend from the pod, was trying to find a name for them. I don't know if he settled on one yet. We'll have to follow up with Tommy, but great atmosphere that they were bringing to the Finn. That was awesome. Yeah, Cope, that game was pretty cool. And I'm actually gonna talk about one of my who's hot, someone who was the hottest player for Villanova in that game. It was not Tyler Perkins, although obviously that shot was massive, won them the game in the end. The MVP of that game was Walker Poplar, and he's my who's hot in the Big Five right now. And it's not just this past game, Cope. The last four, dating back to the 1st of February, he's averaging 20 points a game. He's averaging 6 rebounds a game. And get this, he's averaging like a shade, under 4 steals a game. Unheard of. He had 4 steals in Wednesday night's game against St. John's. He's been incredible so far. His quickness off the dribble was evident from the start of the game, especially driving the lane. Created some space for himself for a couple threes. He he's been really, really good, and this is the player that Villanova thought and knew that they were getting when he transferred in from Miami. And it was one they were missing the last year or two, maybe. Um, they haven't had an offensive creator at guard like this since Kyle Neptune took over. It's been a little bit, probably since Colin Gillespie in that Final Four team, even though very different players, but good scorer, Colin Gillespie, this one as well. So, but it's not even just the offensive end. Obviously, the 4 steals is mightily impressive. Only averaging 1.8 turnovers per game, too, in that stretch. So he's been awesome, and he's been clicking really well with Jake Brickus. He's been clicking well with Eric Dixon. Jordan Longino's been stepping up, too. So I'm not going to say, obviously, you already said that Villanova's hot, and they are. I'm going to go individually with Luka Poplar because he's been the engine and providing a bit of a scoring lift that maybe other people can't besides Eric Dixon, because obviously you need someone else besides Dixon. He's otherworldly. We know his talent. He showed it on Wednesday night too, but Wooga Poplar has been incredible. Cope, I don't know if I have quite any other who's hot right now. I can start off with who's not though. Not that I want to transition that quickly. Obviously, I don't like talking negative, but my who's not this week is LaSalle. Hate to do it. Obviously, you were there for the loss on Wednesday to St. Joe's. Good game for a lot of the game, but it's been rough for LaSalle lately. They've lost three straight. Uh, the St. Joe's game was the closest, but none of them have been particularly close. They've lost four of their last five, and they have lost six of their last eight, dating back to the January 19th loss to UMass, who they will be facing, or who actually they faced again recently on Sunday. So, Cope, it's been a rough stretch. This team was playing well at one point. They were getting unexpected contributions that maybe we didn't think we were going to get from the likes of Courtney Keithan. Deuce Jones has still been solid, but he, you know, maybe hitting a little bit of a freshman wall. He's still been good. Like I don't want to like discredit him at all, but him in the context of the team has not been playing well as of right now. Now they're under 500 for the first time this year. So it's tough going right now. I don't think they'll finish at the bottom of the A10, but they're not far off from it at the moment. And it's a little frustrating. Not that we expected this team to be, a great team, a good team in the A10, but there was a good chunk of the early and even into conference play part of the season where they were competitive and they were in games, and that's kind of what you want to see from a young team. They have not been in a lot of games lately. Obviously, they won against George Washington and they won against Rhode Island, which that was a good win for sure. But especially the last three against VCU, lost by 30, UMass lost by 23, and then this 12-point loss to St. Joe's on Wednesday. It's been a little rough for LaSalle. So hopefully they don't end up back in this category the rest of the season. Hopefully they can turn around a little bit. Tough matchup at Rhode Island on Saturday, and then they're home against Richmond, who that's probably a game that they could win at the Glaciers. So we'll see. But for now, LaSalle is my who's not this week. Cope, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I want to touch on them just on last night's performance. I mentioned the foul trouble Rasheer Fleming was in, and it's another start by Tunde Valberg-Fasasi with Jaleel White coming off the bench. He was out for a previous game, and then Michi Lilly only played 8 minutes, which, hey, if you remember the Big Five championship game, LaSalle was in this thing in the first half because of how well Meech Lilly was playing, and then he got hurt. And he played the second half, and he has another injury, a lower body injury this time kept him out, kept his minutes limited. And Matt Etienne played a good game, but you're just a little more limited offensively when you have Matt Etienne in there as opposed to Meech Lilly. You don't have the floor spacing that Meech can bring and open up the floor. So they didn't quite have the offense. 3 points from Tunde Valberg-Fasasi. Had a really nifty move to pick up Rasheer Fleming's second foul, but you don't have the athlete, the driver that you have with Jaleel White when you have Tunde in there. And Corey, as much as Rasheer Fleming was in foul trouble, Corey McKeithen was as well. Played 25 minutes in this game, so it's not like it kept him out as much as Rasheer Fleming was kept out in this game. Still had 11 points, 5 of 8, but he was in some foul trouble as well. And because of that, Deuce Jones had to pick up the slack, which wasn't really an issue. I mean, this guy's he's a beast. 22 points, 7 of 14, played 37 minutes, got to the free throw line, got into the paint. He's a heck of a player. This guy, he's aggressive. He had a big time steal and dunk. He's awesome. He's awesome. The problem was under 40% from the field as a team for LaSalle and just 2 of 15 from three. So in a game where Rasheer Fleming was in foul trouble, they just didn't make enough shots to capitalize. And then defensively, Fran Dunphy had said in the post-game presser, like, we just had some lapses. We weren't as great as they were. And they were pretty damn good in the first half defensively. It just didn't keep up in the second half for them. You look at the loss they took to UMass on Super Bowl Sunday, and yeah, it has been rough. Shots haven't been falling. You have the injuries to Demetrius Lilly and Jaleel White that have limited them or kept them out, which those are 2 day one starters for them that are now, Meech Lilly played 8 minutes last night. So yeah, they certainly have to be somebody that's down, going through some bumps for sure. And then I want to touch on Drexel here because I was at two games of theirs last week. Played awesome against William and Mary. Seriously, one of the best games off. Excuse me, not only one of the best all around games, one of the best offensive games that a Big Five team has played this year. They did not get thrown off by the pace of William and Mary. They didn't get baited into taking a ton of quick shots and playing at the track meet pace they want to play at. But 31 made baskets for them. They had 22 assists. Deuce Drake was awesome. Deuce Drake had a really good week last week, a really good week. Led the team in scoring in the William and Mary game. Hit a shot at the end of regulation to force overtime against UNC Wilmington. That was one of the craziest games I think I've ever been at. They played a double OT thriller against UNC Wilmington. They storm all the way back. There was times they're down 9, they're down 8. They come all the way back. Deuce Drake forces overtime. Kobe McGee hit one of the hardest shots I've seen a guy hit in the Big Five this season to force double overtime. And as much as they scrapped and clawed against a really good UNC Wilmington team that had been on a win streak, was second in the CAA in the standings, there was a play at the very end of double overtime where Greedy Williams drove right down the court, and after he beat Shane Blakeney, there was just no help defense behind him. They let him go right to the basket, which obviously a super deflating way to lose for Drexel, but it sucks that a game that good had to end that way. A game that was had that much, shock value and big time shots and big time moments and there was so much good in this game. For it to end like that was not only, of course, deflating for Drexel, but just, for a back and forth competitive game to end like that just kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But they lost again to Hampton tonight in a close game. And Drexel right now, they sit at 5-8 in the CAA. They could very well be 8-5. It's just in a good chunk of these close games, they're just coming up short, and the other team's making one or two more plays than them. I asked Zach Spiker about that when I was there Saturday, and there's a couple, like in double overtime, Drexel had a lead, and UNC Wilmington goes to the free throw line. They miss twice, and they're able to get offensive rebounds on the foul line. And this team has some size. The Obiaha, their center's a load, and with the injury to Garfield Turner, you could kind of see that was an area that UNC Wilmington was trying to exploit. Kamari McGriff couldn't miss in the first half and for most of this game. So the size of UNC Wilmington certainly bothered them, but these guys fought like hell. They fought tooth and nail. Certainly not for a lack of effort. Drexel's coming up short against UNC Wilmington in some of these games, but these games are rock fights, especially on the road. And they could easily be a top half of this league. They could be a team in the top half of this league, and you could flip that record from 5-8 to 8-5 at the snap of a finger. It's all these close games are what's been making the difference for them and what has them at the record they are now. They've been playing well. They've been scoring. They have guys that can put the ball in the basket. They just got to find like little things, rebound on the foul line, stuff like that. Make free throws, which it has been a bit of an issue for them in recent games and kind of as a whole this year. Little things like that can add up and make all the difference. They're in these games. They are. They're in them. They just got to be able to pull them out, and it's a lot of little things that can get them there. But they looked good for, they're a bit of a cold streak right now in the CAA, still outperforming expectations, but they could be top half of this league, potentially higher. Just these close games have not been kind to them.
No, no, they have not. But as we've talked about before, young team, a lot of new pieces in there for Zach Spiker's crew. So if nothing else, what you can take away from all of this is that it's a good learning experience. And maybe all these guys won't stick around for the following years and get to, give Drexel the fruit of the labor of going through all of this. But at the same time, it this will teach them how to win games in the future, whether they like it or not, because you don't want to lose, obviously, but if there's one thing to be taken away from all this, I think it's that, like, hey, maybe next year they know what it's like. They've been through this. The pressure doesn't get to them quite as much. They win some more of these games. They're in the top half of the league, if not higher. So it's it's a learning experience for sure. But Cope, we got more games this week. Obviously, we're already recording this on Thursday night, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and probably into Monday, Tuesday before we record again, at least. So let's pick out a couple games we both want to talk about here. I guess I can go first. I very much would like to talk about St. Joe's George Mason, and that is on Saturday at 12:30 down in Fairfax. Listen, George Mason, probably the surprise of the league this year. I think people picked them to be, top half and whatnot, but to be this good, 20-5 on the season is pretty incredible. I definitely was not expecting that, but they are a really, really good team. So for St. Joe's, it's going to be obviously a tough matchup for them. And they have consistency problems, that's the one thing that we always talk about with them. Can they game in, game out, put on their best performance? Because if they can, I think they can beat any team in this conference, even on the road. And it's not going to be an easy environment for them going down to Fairfax. It's not a far road trip by any means, but they're the best team in the conference. 11-1 in the conference for George Mason so far this year. 66th in Ken Palm. They're, you know, 13th of defensive team in the country. It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's kind of like the opposite of Nova, honestly, in a way. Nova has like a crazy talented offense. They're, I think, top 10, if not top 15. And then they're in the 180s on defense. This is like the exact opposite of that. So it should be a good matchup. I think George Mason will be able to do a good job to try to slow down some of the St. Joe's attack. But maybe this can be a game where we talk about it all the time, and with Aaron Bracey on Spaces, we talk about it all the time. St. Joe's three-point shooting, whether it's their lack of three-point shooting makes or their efficiency, their volume, whatever the case may be, St. Joe's they are a three-point machine. Maybe this is one of those games where they try to take it inside a little bit. Now, George Mason is top 13 nationally in both three-point and two-point percentage. So maybe Billy Lang will look at that and say, let's just play our game and we'll see what happens and we'll adjust on the fly if we need to. But either way, I think it's going to be a really, really good game. Ken Palm has this as a 67-62 win for George Mason. I can see it, but I do think there's a real chance for St. Joe's to pick up a victory over the best team in the conference, at least record-wise, and then, hey, maybe they move into the top four. I think they're at 5 right now. So move into the top 4 and you never know what can happen. Cope, what say you?
Yeah, you did steal mine. I think that's easily the game of the weekend. You have St. Joe's who finally wins back-to-back games in A10 play here, and they're going to the first place team right now that is playing incredibly. Tony Skinn has done a really, really good job with them in his second year. And look, that's what we talk about all the time. You got to pick off a good team, and you probably got to do it on the road. If you want to separate yourself, these are the games that you have to win to get yourself that double bye. I mean, it's a ripe opportunity for St. Joe's to do that. So I have 2 games here. I don't want to get too far into next week.
I know
So I
exactly
want to
what
touch
you're
on
looking at.
Villanova Providence because Villanova is going to Gamble Pavilion. You have to,
Yeah,
of course, bring up that one.
yeah.
But Villanova Providence. Providence got blown out by Xavier last night. Kim English got tossed. They've had a bunch of injuries. Jabri Abdur-Rahim is now out for the year. Of course, Bryce Hopkins is out for the year. Kriista Sandico had pneumonia, I believe, so he's been out. He didn't play last night. So it's a beat up Providence team. We know the Dunkin' Donuts Center, which Amica Mutual Pavilion, I still don't like it. When you
No,
call
it's
it
the
the
dunk.
amp, the amp is like, okay,
It's the
but it's
dunk.
not the dunk.
It's the dunk.
It's not. But it's still a tough place to play, which attendance figures have been dropping. I don't know how much, this season, if it continues for them, I don't know how hard it'll be for teams to play there. But this is a landmine game for Villanova against an under 500 team. They currently sit at 5th in the Big East. Got to get this game to keep that. The problem is they're going to have to play a top 4 team if seeding holds. They're going to play a top 4 team in the Big East tournament. That 2:30 game, I believe, on Thursday. But you have to avoid a loss here. They're better than this team. The only reason it was really close last time they played at Wells Fargo was because Providence went on a crazy streak where I think they made 7 threes in a row. Like you take away the 3 point line, there's no reason they should win this game handedly. It's a team with injuries, inconsistency, a bit of youth at some key positions, especially at center. So you have to avoid a landmine with that one. And then I'm going to do my best to make Florida Atlantic at Temple Sunday at noon. Temple, of course, they broke their undefeated streak at the Liacouras Center last night. Really a bad loss for them, losing to Tulsa, who's on the bottom of the AAC. And Mashburn he was 6 of 20. He still poured in 19 points for you, but you can't break your streak to that team. Temple's way better than that Tulsa team, way better, way better. So disheartening performance there. Zion Stanford, 3 points in 12 minutes. He had been awesome off the bench, playing his best basketball of the year. Shane Dezzoni didn't score in the 14 minutes that he played. He in the rebounding and the scoring department, just making some gritty little plays, had been really good. And when you don't have that lift, it certainly hurts them when the best player goes 6 of 20. So just really disheartening loss. And then they got beat up a little bit at Memphis last Sunday, which you expected Memphis to come out and want to be the more physical team because Temple certainly whooped them when they came to Liacouras Center, and Temple manhandled them in the toughness department for sure. So tough to play on the road against the Memphis team that wants revenge on you. But really disappointed in this loss because a bye for Temple is potentially lost with a game like the Tulsa game. So interested to see what the response is going to be. They are back at home. Of course, they now have one in the loss column at the Liacouras Center, but this FAU team has been a bit of a nice surprise in the AAC. So would like to see a nice response here from Temple. And at home they've lost a couple games in a row. Interested to see how they bounce back here. I think it'll be a big game for Jamal Mashburn, but just as a team. Right now, Kyle, they sit at 7th. I didn't think this is where we would be with the Owls at this point in the season. They're tied for 6th with ECU, but expected more from them, disheartened by the Tulsa loss, but a good opportunity against the current 5th place team right now in FAU to potentially bounce back and get a win. So hoping I can be at that one, but I have my eyes on those two this weekend.
And it's Hooter's birthday. Can't forget that.
Oh, how can you go wrong with that?
How can you go wrong with that? Should be a good game though. Sunday at noon at the Liacouras Center. Yeah, Cope, there's a few more games here. We're not going to go in depth on these games, but just to give you guys the schedule for the next few days. Valentine's Day, February 14th, Penn traveling up to New Haven to take on Yale. Saturday, obviously, we mentioned St. Joe's and George Mason, but also Drexel will also be in the state of Virginia to take on William and Mary at 2. LaSalle will also be in Rhode Island, along with a couple other teams that we're going to mention, taking on URI at 4. Penn and Villanova will both be in Providence, Rhode Island on Saturday. Of course, Penn taking on Brown, Nova taking on Providence, as you mentioned, Cope. Sunday, as you mentioned, Temple taking on FAU at home. President's Day, nobody's playing. And then Tuesday, a big one, maybe the big one, Villanova at UConn at the XL Center in Hartford, 6:30 p.m. that night. We won't get too far into the week because hopefully we'll have an episode out by midweek next week. But some big games this weekend, a lot to look forward to. Cope, what a time of year this is. And we're getting in a bubble shrinking period. So pretty crazy. Maybe we can go over the bubble another time just because we had a lot to go over. But yeah, this is the best time of year. This is the best time of the year. It's not March yet, but it is almost March.
It's almost March.
Almost March. We're close.
Yes, sir.
Close.
We are right there.
We are right there. So, Cope, any final thoughts here before we sign off for this week?
No, it's a shame we can't get out to any of these games. Yesterday was the one opportunity we had, besides Sunday, of course. But Saturday is usually a day where I feel like I'm always at a game.
Yeah.
And not going to be able to do that this week. All big five games on Saturday are all on the road.
And they're either in Virginia or Rhode Island.
Yeah. If I make it to Temple Sunday, that's only 2 games this week, which is a really, really light week. I did 4 games in 4 days last week and was going Thursday to Sunday. So
Crazy.
Bit of a light week, but we're going to start to heat up here. I'm already thinking about conference tournaments, so best time of year, man. Best time of
Yeah.
year. I got the train home today, and by the time I got off the train, the sun was still out a little bit. We're trending in the right direction, Kyle.
Yeah. Left work at
Whatever you
5:30
do.
today. Sun was out. Still a little bit.
Nice sunset too today.
Beautiful sunset.
Nice sunset
Can't
too.
complain.
So
Listen, we're slowly but surely we're getting there. I know it snowed this week. I know it's going to be, it was a little warmer today, but it's going to be colder kind of the next week or so in the 30s. But once we start creeping in the 40s, we start creeping toward March, conference tournament play starts, weather gets a little nicer, then it's a tournament. So we're not too far, ladies and gentlemen. But for now, thank you all for tuning in very much. We appreciate you greatly, as always. And if you want to find more stuff from us, obviously check out our social medias, Twitter and Instagram at Big Five Pod. Keep checking out our YouTube, Big Five Pod there as well, and our audio-only versions of this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's Jake Copestick. I'm Kyle Morello, and we will see you next week.